In this video, we're going to be looking at this new city building game that's in early access called Townscaper. There is no doubt it is charming and satisfying. I mean, just look and listen. However, the question that we'll be trying to answer today is this worth it for RPG game masters or world builders who are wanting to create good-looking maps for their settlements? Hi everybody, my name is Nate, and you are watching WASD20, a channel about tabletop RPGs and fantasy maps. Here we are in the early access version of Townscaper, which I got on Steam. Personally, I've spent a fair amount of time over the last week browsing through the Steam summer sale, which just ended, I'm sorry to tell you, looking through all of the amazing deals on games that I could add to my already huge library of games that I really do intend to play someday, honest. But all of that Steam browsing did pay off because I found this one, and I'm really glad I did. So we're going to be taking a look today. The game is only $6, so it's hard to pass up, but I will say I hesitate to even call it a game. It's really more of just a kind of chill experience, very sandboxy. So when you first load into the game here, you will see that you just start with nothing. It's just going to be some sea, and you can add to that by clicking anywhere. Now, I'm not going to go over all the intricacies of the controls. They are pretty simple, but there are some things I still haven't really figured out. The game doesn't have super clear instructions. There is, however, a really good guide on Steam that a user made, and I'm going to put a link to that one down in the video description, so check that one out if you want more of a tutorial. I've found it helpful. So when you clicked anywhere here, you can just place a little bit of, I don't know, cobblestone, concrete, something like that. And if you want to rotate around, you just drag the mouse button, left mouse button, around anywhere, and you can get any sort of angle here. You can even see the clouds up there. So we can click right here to place some more and start adding to what will eventually be a sort of a landmass. Now, unfortunately, you can't click and drag to like drag across here and get a whole bunch, or right across here, because when you drag, it just ends up doing this. So you do have to click for each individual block, which can get pretty time consuming if you're wanting to build out a really big settlement. I did find it helpful to get the grid turned on here, and then you can see exactly where these pieces of land are going to go. You can zoom in and out with the scroll wheel. You can pan back and forth by holding the right mouse button, or you can use W, A, S, or D keys on your keyboard. The sound design and animation is really satisfying, and again, it kind of speaks to that idea that this is not a game per se, it's just kind of a cool, chill, satisfying experience. And when we click on some of our land now, we can start to see the structures popping up. And that's where these colors come into play. If we change the colors while we're placing land, it doesn't really do anything. The only way the colors make a difference is when we start getting to the structures, which go on top of your land. And you can actually build up pretty far vertically. I think you might be able to get to like 10 stories or something like that, maybe even higher. Now, the aesthetic is definitely a bit more modern than I would prefer for something like a medieval fantasy setting. But at a distance, it's hard to tell. And if you use the right colors, it can kind of sell at a distance as a typical D&D world, which is what I would be using it for. The brighter colors, the greens, the blues, and purples don't really work so well for that sort of thing. There are also some modern aesthetics like little potted plants and these chairs, and I think this is even like a little pair of maybe rubber boots here, galoshes or something on the porch. There's also some of these little mailboxes like this one right here, and some little touches like that that give it a more modern feel for sure. So adding some more themes or skins, even if they're available for a little bit of extra purchase, would really kind of up the viability here for game masters and world builders. If you could get something that looked a little bit more typical fantasy or medieval Europe, even some kind of Asian architecture styles, Viking, things like that would be really cool. Another thing that gives it a much more modern aesthetic is the cobblestone and kind of brickwork here. If you could get some grassier areas, which you can actually do when you enclose areas, you can kind of see that right in here, but also having some different terrain types for this, where it's not just water. You're not just building these island cities. So I'm definitely thinking the intended audience for this game is not RPG game masters or fantasy world builders, but I do hope that the developer hears, either through this video or through other sources, that there is a lot of potential for this tool here that really excites me as a game master and world builder. So I'll definitely be commenting further on things I would love to see added, but leave your own comments down below as well, and let's upvote some of the better suggestions and hope the developer maybe even sees them. At this time, I'm going to show some footage of a pretty large city I built in Townscaper yesterday, and I'll provide further commentary and show off some of the features as we go. As I mentioned before, the process of actually creating your foundation or your land masses is a pretty time-consuming one because it has to be done individually by each section. So I'm going to be speeding this up quite a bit here, but I also thought it's a great time for me to thank the WASD20 patrons. These amazing people support the channel on a monthly basis. I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I couldn't do what I do without them. If you get value out of this content and you want to join with them in support of my work, there are also some pretty cool rewards. Things like weekly live map drawing streams with me. I usually stream every Sunday afternoon for my patrons or sometimes Monday evenings. And there's some other great rewards too, so definitely go check it all out over at patreon.com/WASD20. Thank you, patrons. So one of the things that really attracted me to Townscaper is the idea that you can create a town or city in the program, and then I can get maps in multiple perspectives from the same city or town that I created without having to remake it. Make one top-down version of the map, make one isometric version of the map. No, all I have to do is create the city and then shift my perspective down a little bit depending on what sort of view I want. If you're a game master, you could even have your map already loaded up on your computer in Townscaper, ready to show your players and rotate around there at the table, or on your computer if you're playing virtually and just share your screen. However, in most cases, personally, I would just be taking screenshots because unfortunately there is no export option at this time. You can't export this town into any sort of image file or other sort of file. You just have to take a screenshot. So for me in Windows, I was just using the snipping tool that comes with Windows, taking screenshots, and then I can either save those or I can even import those into Photoshop, or if you don't have Photoshop, you can definitely try a free program like GIMP or Krita, and you can do further editing in there. You can add labels, you can change the ground type, you can repaint things different colors, you can divide your map up into sectors, you can create a key for those various sectors or various locations. Of course, it would be nice if we had some of those features right here in Townscaper, but at least we do have options for expanding the look of the map. So other than the slow process of getting your land masses or your foundation established, the program is actually really quick. You can just go around kind of randomly popping in buildings, and it can look pretty decent. However, I did take a lot of care to try to sort of create roads, and I don't feel like I got super good at it. I did see other people's maps who looked like they had better, more clear roads, but it was pretty decent overall. The other thing is, because it's so quick and easy, you definitely don't get much control. They really focus on just kind of randomizing certain things, and you can learn some of those patterns for how to create things you want over time, but it's not all that intuitive at first. Very quick and easy to build good-looking things, but a little bit lacking in the customization and control. So in addition to what I mentioned earlier about different building styles, maybe from different cultures or eras, and different ground styles, like, hey, how about some dirt roads or some grassy fields, maybe even some fields of crops and things like that, there are some other things that I would like to see added here as well. One of the big ones is walls. A lot of the settlements in my homebrew settings that I've created definitely would require walls to defend. You can sort of create walls, but they're basically going to look like these little walls of buildings. Maybe it's implied in the different styles for buildings, but in addition to just picking the color of each structure, it would be nice if you could specify what sort of roof you want on this structure or what sort of siding. And hey, if we're gonna dream, let's dream big. It would be really nice if you could get specific types of buildings. Like this one here, this is a barn. And then over here, you have your blacksmith and things like that. That would be awesome. Probably never gonna happen, but hey, a guy can dream. So overall, I think you've got a pretty solid product here, and it's hard to argue with that price at just $6. It is an early access, so I am hopeful they'll be making some improvements and adding more features, but we'll just have to wait and see. If you know more than me, definitely leave some comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed watching me build this city. It's kind of a 3-island city. I decided to kind of lean into the water city thing, and I definitely stuck with the more muted colors, the orange, the browns, the white, just to give it a more kind of authentic, believable medieval feel. And when you zoom out enough, I definitely do think it could pass for one of the cities in the fantasy settings that I've built. So here we have the finished overhead view of the map, and I did end up adding some bridges here to connect these islands because that just seemed to make sense to me. But again, that idea that you can have several different perspectives. Here we have the overhead perspective. I could take a screenshot of this, I could label it and do my thing there. Or I can tilt that perspective down a little bit to give that cool isometric view. You could even go like this and just give your players that view of what they might see when they enter a city. Super cool feature. So obviously there's a lot of room for improvement here, but I really like what I'm seeing, and I definitely think it was worth $6 for me. I would love to hear what you think down in the comments as well. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you give it a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed yet, I would love to have you subscribe as well. It's free, and I'm not terrible at this, I don't think. All right, that's all for this one, everybody. Take care. You'll see me again very soon.